everyone, and welcome to another video. I am Simply G, and today I'm going to be showing off all of the manga that I got for this month of June. Okay, I was not meant to be spending because obviously I don't have a huge amount of spending money. We're in the middle of a pandemic. That went completely out of the window. I think part of it is also because there's like 2.5 months worth of pre-orders and stuff here that got caught up in shipping. There is so much to show off. I'm sorry. I'm preemptively going to apologize because this is going to be a long video. Good for you and good for me. And I have read all of it, so that's good. But yeah, rather than spend too long on this intro, I'm going to get straight into it because, as I said, there's a lot to get to. So first off, I think it's probably a good idea to start with the oddity of this. This is a new release in the very first, I guess, proper manga release by Glacier Bay, who, if you don't know, they are run by the wonderful Corner Cat. And in the past, I've purchased some of their books. Most notably, their first English released doujin titled Sleepy Child. And so I bought two things from them recently, both official, I guess, English releases for more indie and doujin works. The first being the sequel to Sleepy Child, being That Child. It's so cute. And these are just short little, well, it's a short continual comic about this little cat boy who in the original keeps having like dreams and keeps falling asleep. He's kind of solved that problem, but now he's seeing this other little cat in his dreams, and it's related to a statue at his new school. It's all very sweet and kind of dreamlike, in fact. But I bought this. I was going to buy it, but I managed to wait out until I wanted to pre-order something else so I can combine shipping. And the other item that I got from Glacier Bay was their actual, like, first, I guess, manga works, and that is Glaiola, Volume 1. And this is a collection of indie manga from various different creators, and you can see there's a really interesting mix of art styles, of stories. I really like this book. I think there's some wonderful little comics here. If you like indie or alternative manga, be sure to check this one out. I will link their website so you can get your own copy. They did have a limited run for like a special edition where it had printed printed sides of these pages, one for each letter of the alphabet. I did not get a copy of one of those because, one, I was asleep when the pre-orders went up, because obviously a different side of the world, and two, it meant that it was all sold out. All the limited editions were sold out by the time I got there. So I'm happy with my standard edition. It's a beautiful book. I cannot wait for the second to be released and to see what else Glacier Bay puts out in the future. But yeah, as I said, if you're a fan of alternate or indie manga comics in general, be sure to check this one out. I really love the Midorikawa story. I love the kid who has like all different things in the jars. I love, really, there's something to love about each and every one of these stories, and it's so good. It's so good. So next, I think I'm going to go into the box sets, because yes, I did get some manga box sets, but not the same type of box sets that I think most manga collectors buy, which tend to be like the Viz Shonen Jump stuff, or like Tokyo Ghoul, One Piece, Naruto, etc. No, I didn't get any of those. I got the, I guess, retailer exclusive release edition of Dementia 21. So this is a really lovely, oh my god, look at all that amazing Kago artwork. This is a box set for the 2 volumes of Dementia 21 by Shuntaro Kago, which he's had a couple series released in English before, most notably Super Dimensional Love Gun, which is put out by Faku/Dempa. He's also put out a lot of doujin works himself from his website. I really like Kago's work. I have a commissioned portrait from Kago as well, which is really wonderful. But this is really, I guess, his first proper longer series that has gotten English release. I did previously own like volume 1 of this release. This is put out by Fantagraphics Books. But when I heard that they were putting out a box set, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get that. I sold my volume 1 and just decided to pick up the 2 and completed the series. Really wonderful. If you don't know anything about Dementia 21, it follows a young woman who is a carer. She's kind of like an in-home nurse for the elderly, but she has a lot of different clients. And sort of the craziness that happens because it's a Kago work. There's always going to be some crazy, weird body horror stuff going on. And it's really, really good. I think there's a larger social commentary about how we treat our elderly very obviously throughout this piece. But also just some really bizarre stuff as well. And kind of this commentary on getting older and becoming, you know, part of this invisible elderly demographic of people. It's really, 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 really good. But yeah, weird. It's not one that I would recommend like 100% for everyone, because I think Kago just in general is not 100% for everyone. So be aware if you're wanting to get it. But if you are a Kago fan like myself, or if you don't mind like crazy, weird, body horror, bizarre, you know, stuff, then be sure to check out Kago stuff. And this one is definitely a lot more tame, a lot more approachable compared to a Super Dimensional Love Gun, but no less relevant and poignant, and I guess politically active, or it definitely has something to say. It definitely has something to say, so be aware of that. But yeah, really, really lovely release by Fantagraphics. I just wish, you know, the box set was kind of a huge surprise, and I think a lot of people got caught out because they'd bought either the first volume or both of the volumes, and then they announced it, and they're like, no, I want that, because it is really lovely, very quintessential Kago artwork on this box set, and I'm sure a lot more people may have wanted to buy it than they could justify repurchasing the series again. Anyway, yeah, really, really happy to have this, and Fantagraphics always does a really great job with their manga anyway, so really happy. So next is another box set. This is a Viz box set, but it's different style than a lot of their stuff. It's also, I guess, maybe an older box set at this point. I don't remember when exactly this came out. A couple years ago now at this point. But this is the Revolutionary Girl Utena manga series by Chiho Saito and B Papas. So this is a 2 omnibus release, which contains all 5 volumes of the Utena manga, plus the single volume Adolescence of Utena manga, sort of alternate version of the series. If you're not familiar with Utena somehow, it is the classic series, anime series by Ikuhara, who directed it, who subsequently went on to direct Yorikuma Arashi, Sarazanmai, and Mawaru Penguin Drum, all series that I adore and love, including Utena. But that was really his first, the one that is the most nostalgic, most classic, most iconic for a lot of people. Hugely, hugely influential for a lot of creators, including American cartoon creators. Steven Universe is kind of the go-to, but they're very evocative in a lot of series. But this is a story of a young girl, or young teen girl called Utena, who in her childhood was rescued by a prince, and she was so inspired by him that she decided she wanted to become a prince herself. So she decides to go to this specific school in order to find him, because she's trying to track him down to thank him, and I guess reconnect with him, and ends up getting embroiled in these duels for the power to revolutionize the world, which is related to one of the other girls at the school called Anthe, who's called the Rose Bride, and whoever wins the duel becomes engaged to Anthe, because she has this sword that, as there's a lot of elements in this, but ultimately there's a lot going on, right? Worst siblings ever in media. In this series, and this is like with all of the Ikuhara, like manga, anime, light novel, different versions, they're all sort of the same, but also meant to be their own different products. So this does have a different ending. It does have like different events, sort of, compared to the anime, and that's purposeful, because whenever Ikuhara makes a show, he brings on a mangaka to tell the story, but tell it in their own way, to have their own interpretation of these events, and in that way I think it makes a much more interesting experience, rather than just having like a straight, exact replica, cut and dry copy, that some manga adaptations of anime tend to be, because all of these series, Yorikuma Arashi and Utena and Sarazanmai, etc., are original series. Like, they started as anime, but they're kind of subsequently, the manga starts at the same time, or just as, like, whilst it's still airing, the light novels are sort of the same deal as well. So you have a lot of different creative minds working on these same ideas and these same characters, but taking them in somewhat different directions. A perfect example that I think maybe some people are more familiar with are the Tokyo Pop release of Yuri Bearstorm, obviously related to Yorikuma Arashi, which is that's what Yuri Bearstorm means. But that's much more focused on the adult characters versus the teenage characters, and so it tells a whole different story. It's a whole different side of that narrative, but still retains a lot of the larger messages and a lot of the actual anger that's very present within Yorikuma Arashi. I've said this before, but I really like having different iterations and different ideas and retellings of the same story, especially when it comes to Ikuhara. I own the Tokyo Pop Yuri Bearstorm. I'm currently planning on getting the Penguin Drum novels and manga and the Sarazanmai novels and manga. Utena, we have a sequel to this series manga coming out very soon. So yeah, I mean, I just like owning Ikuhara stuff in all of its versions. Yeah, so really, really happy to have this. It's been out for a little while, and it's not like, I think it's not, if you're expecting the same story as the anime, it's not that. It's also not as good, arguably, as the anime. A lot of people, the anime is very near and dear and to their heart. It's very formative. It was one that I think a lot of people take as an example that helped them reassess themselves and come to realizations about themselves. And the fact that the Utena manga isn't doesn't have that connection, doesn't have that background, and isn't necessarily the same story, and may in fact kind of go counterintuitively to some of the messages of the show, means that it's not as, like, it's not well liked with amongst the fans necessarily. It's kind of a mixed bag. I do like it for what it is, but again, it's a different version and a different interpretation of a story that it's interesting to kind of interact with and to try and, I guess, take as part of this larger franchise, take as a alternate version to everything else. But yeah, I mean, I've been meaning to get this forever. It's been on sale a couple times, and it's still in print, but I just never really got around to it. And then now finally I've just bit the bullet and decided to get it. I'm really happy. I also read it for the first, like, I had read part of it, but I finally completed it. And again, I can understand the criticisms of it, but I do like it for what it is. It's also the first time I read the adolescence manga, because yeah, I never owned Utena, and I'd only read some of it from my library previously. So yeah, looking forward to the sequel manga to this. And yeah, I mean, what else can I say? It's a beautiful box set, if nothing else. Next is a debut that I was highly anticipating. It was like a crazy, incredible license from last year. One that was long overdue, and one that I was so excited for. I know a lot of other people personally within the community were very excited for this, from one of my favorite mangaka ever, and that is Taiyo Matsumoto's Ping Pong Volume 1. This is the first of two large omnibus versions. If you're not familiar with Taiyo Matsumoto, he is the creator of such wonderful manga as Sunny and Black and White, or Tekkon Kincrete. Yeah, this is kind of one of his most beloved, award-winning series, but it just had never been licensed, and the fact that it had an anime adaptation definitely increased awareness of the series. And it's a wonderful anime, don't get me wrong, but I think when that came out and the manga wasn't licensed, people had kind of given up on it. So the fact that Viz ultimately did license it is great. We also got Cats of the Louvre, which was another Viz release. So this is a sports manga following the sport. Well, I mean, it's a character drama and coming of age story, but it's about two ping pong players who are childhood friends and who have grown up together, and because of that, the better player just kind of doesn't have much motivation to excel. He doesn't have the same relationship with ping pong as his friends does, and because of that, he never plays his best. He always goes easy on his friend in an attempt to, like, sate his ego, I guess. I love this series. I am so happy we've finally gotten it. You know, Smile and Pekka are pretty, like, they're definitely Matsumoto characters. I like a lot of the side characters as well, most notably China. There's a lot to really enjoy, and I think even if you just look at this as a sports series, just the action, the fluidity, just the way that it's set out, the way it's paneled. Matsumoto is brilliant at what he does. I've said it before, he's incredible. His art style is very, you can see it's not like conventionally manga or anime style, but it's very purposeful, and he's honestly one of the most accomplished and incredible artists creating comics right now. I love his work, and people who may have the argument that it's bad art, just, ooh, I don't get upset about too many opinions, but that's one I cannot jive with, because it shows a fundamental lack of understanding of what the purpose of art is. Because, as I said, this is very purposefully done in this style. There's no other comic creator who I found captures like this child atmosphere and imagination, and that he does so well in his, because he does focus on child characters a lot. Go-Go Monster, Sunny, Attack on King Crete, and even Ping Pong, although they're a little bit older. It's just, oh, it's just done so well. I love it, and really no two of his series are the same, and they all look different as well, and that's the great thing, is the adaptability of his style to capture what I think the atmosphere is supposed to be for these series. Oh, I could be here all day just gushing about this series, but if you have not read it, if you haven't watched it, I would encourage you to try the anime. It's up streaming. I'm not sure where. I think Anime Lab has it here in Australia. I'd say Crunchyroll might have it. I don't know. Funimation probably does have it. It's marvelous. It is phenomenal, and the manga is just as good. It also has a really solid live action adaptation too. So yeah, buy Ping Pong, buy Taiyo Matsumoto's art and his comics, and enjoy yourself. Thank me later. So next are Omnibus 8 and 10 of Blade of the Immortal by Hiroaki Samura, which means I'm completed with these 3-in-1 kind of omnibuy of this classic seinen series. I know that there's like a fancy deluxe hardcover edition coming from Dark Horse, but I don't care. Frankly, I like these releases enough that I'm not going to worry about spending double the money for the exact same thing, just with fake leather covers and all of that. Yeah, so I hadn't read this series before, but I did just finally complete it, obviously, because I got the last couple books. But this is a story about a young woman who is trying to get revenge for the murder of her parents. Many, like a couple years prior, she gets the help of this immortal swordsman called Manji, who is the slayer of 1,000, and now he has gained immortality through a particular method in his past, and now he's trying to kind of redeem himself for all the murder he caused when he was not immortal by helping people and killing just bad people, basically. And so now she's taken him on as her bodyguard, one, because he can't die, but two, because she's going up against this like very powerful sword school, who are the Itoryu, who are, you know, very accomplished at what they do. And there's a lot of crazy psychos and very violent people along the way to worry about also. I really liked this. I feel like I had the same experience with The Vagabond, where it took me a little while to really get into the groove of this series. It wasn't one that initially hooked me all that strongly, but I persevered through the series and ultimately ended up liking it a lot for the story that it's trying to tell. It's not my favorite series, and I wouldn't say like it's a must read for everyone, especially if you're not a fan of like violence and you know, and gore as well. There's quite a lot of like very visceral gory stuff, and just messed up stuff as well. But it's very, very good at what it is. Personally, I prefer some of Samura's other works. I'm a really big fan of his current title, Wave Listen to Me, which I know has had a kind of polarizing anime, but I really like that series. But yeah, Blade of the Immortal, very, very, very good. I think it's a touch too long, perhaps maybe just a touch too slow to start getting into it in a aspect, in a sense. But it's a crazy ride. It's very fulfilling. I think it ultimately gives you exactly the sort of experience you want from this type of story. And it's not really a happy ending necessarily, but I think that's a good thing. Yeah, Blade of the Immortal. It's very, very popular. A lot of people talk it up. A lot of people are very passionate about the series. It's very, very good. Still probably not my favorite, but I do enjoy it enough that I would definitely give it a reread. I do really like a lot of the... I like the main characters. I also like a lot of the side characters. It's once it gets more established, once more of the cast becomes people rather than like evil cardboard cutouts, then it becomes more interesting to me personally. And yeah, I got more invested and cared more about what was going on. But yeah, really happy to finally complete this. Good luck to whoever's getting the like deluxe editions. You are free to do that. I'm not going to waste my time with that. Next, going into some of the larger trim standard stuff, we have oh my gosh, one of my favorite series, and that nobody else is reading except for me, but it's just like exactly the type of stuff. Like, oh, it just ticks all of the boxes. But this is volume 4 of Matsuri Phantom Tales of the Night, which follows a demonic, monstrous innkeeper who has a bunch of different guests, and he helps them in exchange for their deepest, darkest secret. This particular volume focuses a lot on his kind of assistants, Butterfly and Spider, most notably Butterfly, and kind of his struggle in existence and understanding people. And then various things happen. This one, more than the previous ones, definitely has a very the storyline kind of continues through most, if not all, of the chapters, which up until this point it's been a somewhat episodic series, which with each chapter or each couple chapters kind of self-contained. There has been like an overall storyline and bits and pieces that tie into each other, but up until this volume we haven't had like an entire book of consecutive chapters about the same kind of issue going on. I don't know, that's probably the best way I can describe it. But oh my god, I love this series so much. I especially really like the relationship that the like Spider and Butterfly have with the owner, and then with the guests that come and arrive. And for me, and I've said this before, I'm a huge fan of yokai manga, yokai stories, of all types, but I especially like the really weird, creepy ones that aren't afraid to really like lean into the inhuman aspect of these monsters, because that's what they are monsters, and the fact that they are different from humans, and then their sense of morality, their sense of time, their sense of justness is so completely different, and the conflict that arises from that's so interesting, and so like one of the aspects that is so cool to explore, and to see how various creators attempt to appreciate that and to incorporate that into their stories. Secondly, this is a beautiful, beautiful series. The covers are phenomenal, but I've heard criticism to this series in the past of that, like, it's hard to relate to the owner and it's hard to, like, understand him. It's like, well, yeah, that's the point, because, like, humans aren't really meant to understand the ways of monsters and gods and things like that. That's kind of how this whole deal is meant to go, right? Which is fine. That just kind of indicates to me that they're not fans of yokai manga, and they shouldn't be looking for things that necessarily shouldn't be expected from it. Anyway, love this series. Really interested in where it's going from here. We get this again. This is kind of the largest snapshot we've had of our main, I guess, supporting cast. And it always makes me want the next volume so bad. This is pretty much everything that I could ever want in this sort of manga. Wonderful, creepy, little spine-tingling josei series that understands the good aspects of a creepy yokai story with body horror and inhuman characters, and it's so good. Anyway, yeah, really happy to have volume 4. Volume 5 will be out in a couple months, and I cannot wait. Next is another Yen Press manga, and holy crap, okay, I ordered this probably in February. It has taken this long to get to me because it was shipped standard post from the UK, I guess. And I thought it was lost in the mail for so long. I'm so happy that it wasn't, because this is volume 8 of Delicious in Dungeon by Ryoko Kui. Another one of my favorite manga. Oh my god. Okay, the first chapter in this volume, all of the characters change races. Because if you're not familiar, this is a comedy cooking fantasy manga that follows a dungeon crawling group as they go into different dungeons in order to save the sister of one of our characters after she was eaten by a red dragon. But yeah, so there's a tall man, quote unquote human. There's a is it half foot? It's half foot in this, and D&D it's like a halfling. We also have a elf and a dwarf in our main cast. Since then, we've also gotten this kind of beastman character who is kind of part cat, part human. There's also like kobolds and orcs and trolls and things like that, ogres. Throughout the series, and all various like campaign, like D&D campaign type of characters. And the first couple chapters, they change races, and it leads to wacky hijinks. And I just look at, so it has all of the characters, right? And this is like what they normally look like diagonally, except for her. But these are what our characters normally look like, their normal races. And then this is them as like their different races. And since they've had these changes, now they are kind of like appreciative of their new skills, but then also they're not used to not being able to do things. It's so funny. I loved it so much. There's also a larger skirmish between the elves who are trying to get rid of this dungeon, and then the people who do not want them to do that. There's also a great Chilblivious. Okay, Chilchuk is my favorite character. One, because I'm biased because my D&D character is a halfling, but two, he's just great. He's definitely like the straight man to a lot of these jokes, and he has a very specific character story in these last chapters. But oh my goodness, I love these weirdos. They're so funny. They're so good. Everyone needs to read this manga because it is really, really good. It's got that food aspect to it, so it has this kind of found family domestic feel to it as well, without ever taking itself too seriously. But meanwhile, you do get like really kind of out of character dark moments as well that tie into this story and the realities of the dangers that this society and like this fantasy world would propose. I just really like the idea that like it's a brilliant idea that these, you know, dungeon crawler type of characters, rather than spending their money on food rations, they decide to just eat the monsters that they come across in this dungeon, and all the various foods they can make out of it. And just the fact that the tall man, the human, Leos, is like so into it. He's so into it. Like before, he was just kind of a soldier kind of fighter guy, but give him like, you give him a centimeter of wiggle room to eat some sort of monster, he is all over that. Like, he just needed the excuse to become an all-out weirdo and to be like completely self-indulgent with his almost sexual desire to eat these weird creatures and to see what they taste like. It's so funny. And Marcielle is their elf. She's sort of the rational, logical one. She has a very certain understanding of the world, so she's usually the one to be a dissident against the weird, crazy bullshit that the rest of the party is trying to do. So she kind of ends up as the butt of the jokes a lot of the time, but it's never in a mean-spirited way, which I really appreciate. There's also our main dwarf character. I cannot remember his name. That's really bad of me. But he's kind of the chef. He's the one who introduced them to the idea of cooking these monsters. And of course, Chilchuk, as I said, my favorite character. He's the halfling or half-foot. He's kind of the one who watches out for traps and can undo locks and can do all these things. And I love him. And there's an ongoing joke that because obviously halflings, they're teeny in comparison to tall men. So he looks like a kid. And the rest of the party, like, very often treats him like a kid. But he's like, I'm 35, and, like, I'm an adult. I'm probably one of the, when we're talking about, don't treat me like I'm 10 years old, right? Because they do. They, like, all think he's young. And, like, they don't know the way, he doesn't know the way of the world. It's like, I've been married, I have kids, I'm just living my life. And then when he turns into a human, like, it's very obvious, like, he's older. He's an old guy. And then it's just, I don't know why I find it so funny, but that's just, like, a great joke. And the Beastman character, she turns into a kobold, so obviously going from a cat to a dog. Oh, it's brilliant. I love it. If you're looking for a fun time, especially with a fantasy twist, and you're sick of all of these dang isekai isekai series, then check out Delicious in Dungeon. It is really brilliant at what it does. Finally, for the larger trim size books, the general larger trim size books, we have a debut from Seven Seas that I am incredibly excited to finally own and to finally read, and that is BL Metamorphosis by Kaori Surutani. This is the story of an elderly woman who is 85, 86, who through a series of circumstances ends up buying a BL manga and gets really invested in the sweet boys and their relationship. And so she goes to buy more of the series, and it catches the eye of the shop clerk who works there, and she's also a BL fan, a Fujoshi, if you will, who's super into it, but she doesn't have any friends to talk about BL with, and so they kind of become friends and do things together because of their shared love of a particular boys' love manga. It's really sweet, it's really wholesome, obviously huge focus on like intergenerational friendship and also mentorship in some aspects. It's so heartwarming. Dang it, it's so cute, you guys. And I just love like this older woman. Obviously she buys this manga without really knowing anything about it. She just picks it off of the cover, and it kind of is a surprise to her that it's a romance, but ultimately she's like, I sure hope these boys get it together and like end up happy. And I'm like, it's so sweet. She's like a really sweet, lovely old grandma. And yeah, her friendship with this younger girl, they obviously are kind of their only outlet for this sort of fandom, or this sort of fanish experience. And due in part because obviously there's an element of embarrassment or shame even now, for people to know that you're a Fujoshi and like, oh, you read about boys kissing boys. For young people, let alone for like old ladies who are, 85 and and not hip with the young people anymore. Oh, it's so cute. Oh, I cannot. Yeah, I mean, this has won a bunch of awards, and it really deserves it. Just from what I've read so far, I really love our main characters. I really love just the whole. I just really love the whole situation, and it's just really sweet and fun. And man, the kind of like becoming that you aspire to become this old lady, because what a badass. But dang, it's really wonderful, and I cannot recommend it highly enough because it was a great first volume. Cannot wait to read more. I think there's 3 or 4 volumes out in Japan so far, so it's not too far ahead. And we are expecting the next volume to come relatively soonish. But yeah, thanks 7 Seas. You always come through with the best stuff. We love you. I'm going to show off my next 7 Seas title before I get into the standard Viz stuff, just so I can keep it all together. But this is, I was talking about Ikuhara earlier in this video, and I bought another Ikuhara manga. This is a new release, the Sarazanmai Reo and Mabu spinoff. So this is a spinoff of the series Sarazanmai, which does have its own series manga and light novels, and of course anime. I love Sarazanmai. It's a story of 3 teenage boys who come from like very different backgrounds, 2 of which are pre-existing friends. The third is kind of a new transfer student. But they kind of end up trying to solve the mystery of all of these bad things happening in their city by turning into Kappa and stopping evil ghosts by sucking out their Danshi? I can never remember what this called. The life organ that old-timey Japan thought that we used to have, which is the favorite food of Kappa. But the only way you can eat it, the only way they can get it, is they suck it out of your butt. Which is a thing, like, that's the actual folklore of Kappa. So, needless to say, it's a weird time. It's a very gay time, which is, again, very normal of Ikuhara. But, yeah, wonderful. Anyway, two of the characters are police officers, Reo and Mabu, the only good police officers, because they're not humans. But this is a spin-off manga about them, and when they discovered Sara, who is another character, and basically adopt her and raise her because she's a baby. They find her on a dish, and they're like, okay, well, we can't find your parents. We're gonna be your papas now. And you're like, oh, yay. And yeah, so if you want two dads raising their baby daughter, who is adorable, and destiny, and yeah, then be sure to check out this manga. It's sort of a similar idea as the, I guess, Yorikuma Arashi manga, in that it focuses on different characters from comparatively to the anime. Reo and Mabu are very prominent characters in Sarazanmai. They're very important characters, and they have a very important storyline in the series, but it's not really like, they're not the main characters, if that makes sense. And this doesn't, like, continuity-wise, I'm not sure how this fits into any of the story, but it doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't need to. It's just, you want to see these two dads who raise a little girl all by themselves, and one who makes food completely shirtless, just with a little apron on, because he can't cook if he's got a top on. And their day-to-day lives being police officers, but also fathers, then this is the series for you. Well, it's just a one-and-done little book. And, yeah, when this was first released in Japan, a lot of this artwork of the two with baby Sara was going around, and, yeah, that was a good time. And so, yeah, if you like the sound of that, pick it up. It's well worth the fun time. And if you're a fan of Sarazanmai, like I am, then, you know, you can't complain about getting more for these characters who are very likable, and their story is very interesting within the show. But this is definitely, like, more of a slice of life-y type of hijinks that really has nothing to do with being police officers. It's just more to do with them being dads. But it's really good. Anyway, yeah, happy to have this. Thanks again, 7Cs. Okay, on to Viz standard stuff. We only have one Shonen Jump title, but might as well get it out of the way first. That is Haikyuu Volume 38 by Haruichi Furudate. Yeah, I mean, what more can I say? This is probably my favorite thing in Jump, aside from Hunter x Hunter, because that's not technically in Jump right now. It's still on hiatus, but this is my favorite ongoing Jump title. I read the new chapter every week. I cry every week because it's really good. It's such a joyful experience reading Haikyuu, and that may sound really stupid, but it is. Like, I legitimately go into the series and go into the new chapters excited, anticipating what's going to happen, and I enjoy every single one of the 19 pages, and I laugh, and I grin, and I gasp, and I cry, and I yell along with the crowd, and then it's over, and then I have to wait a week, and it is legitimately the hardest thing to wait another week for the next chapter. And I'm not complaining, because Furudate deserves, you know, a normal schedule And I'm not saying yes, they should create all of this manga for my enjoyment, but it is by far, of all of the ongoing manga that I read, especially from week to week, or especially on like simulpubbed, I don't think I've had this sort of anticipation for a series ever, ever, ever. Because a lot of my favorite series I don't follow like week to week or whenever a new chapter is published. I don't follow scans, and a lot of the other series that I do enjoy, I read once they were completed or once, when they're collected in tankobon. Haikyuu is a different experience, and it's so good. It's so good. There's a lot of stuff in Jump that I'm enjoying a lot right now. Chainsaw Man is another one. My Hero Academia I'm behind on, but that's always a fun time whenever I catch up. Mashal is a solid little comedy series. Obviously Spy Family is very popular right now. But Haikyuu is the one that I'm like, this is it. This is it. This is all I need. And yeah, I mean, this is kind of wrapping up, well, not wrapping up, but this is the last game of the series. This is the last high school game for this series. I think it's kind of common knowledge now that there's been a time skip in Haikyuu, but there has been. After this game, we skip forward, I think, 5 years or so. So this is the last time we see these characters as teenagers, or at least like high school, teenagers and high school students. And I love it. I love that fact, but it's a really important game for them as well. It's really, 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 really good, you guys. This series is kind of, I've said it before, and previously I wasn't buying this just because it wasn't high on my priority because I read it, but I finally caught up, and this is the most recent release. And I don't know if I'm gonna like keep buying this every 2 months or whenever the volumes come out, just because, again, like, they're not gonna go out of print anytime soon, and I am up to date with the series, but it's also hard to not want to buy it immediately, even though I know it'll stay in print and probably go on sale, and I could get it for way cheaper in the future. It's just, yeah. Haikyuu is wonderful. My favorite sports series, especially of this sort of sports series. I love other sports series as well. Ping pong, I just mentioned. But like Chihaifer and stuff like that as well. I love. But it's a different experience compared to Haikyuu. And I don't know how Furudate does it, but it's marvelous, and it is, in my opinion, the best thing in Jump right now, bar none. Chainsaw Man's pretty up there as well, but yeah, Haikyuu is the best, in my incredibly biased opinion. Now we've got some more Viz stuff, but it's all Shoujo Beat titles, so that's exciting. The first one is a new release for a series that I greatly enjoy. Really love the anime adaptation, really enjoying the manga. That is Snow White with the Red Hair by Sorata Akiduki. This is the story of a young woman who escapes from her kingdom after being targeted by the prince, who wants her kind of as a concubine, maybe? Like, just a mistress. She runs away because she has higher goals. She wants to become a herbalist. She ends up running into someone in the forest who helps her, and ultimately ends up also being a prince, but from the neighboring kingdom. He offers her kind of residency at the castle and the opportunity to work as a court herbalist, and take the test and all sorts of things like that. They really hit it off. They definitely there's a very obvious romantic attraction there, and yeah, it's just really wonderful. I've said this before about Snow White with the red hair, but I really appreciate how proactive Shiroyuki, who's our main character, is not only with her own career, but also supporting the people around her. I also really appreciate how supportive Zen is, the prince of her career. He doesn't like he feels the need to like make sure she's all right and to protect her, but he ultimately knows that he doesn't, if he's not there, she's perfectly capable of looking after herself. She gets herself in trouble, but that's because other people pull her into trouble. He knows that she's not like this maiden who needs to be protected from the world. And she has a lot of stuff that she wants to do. She has her own goals, she has her own ideas and what she wants to do with her life. And it's really refreshing. They have a very mutual and respectful relationship. Yeah, and I also really appreciate that there's none of this, like, oh, does he like me? I'm just not even going to ask, in like 13 volumes of like, will they, won't they? It's pretty upfront and immediate that they are interested in each other, they care about each other, and they're very honest with that. They don't hide that. Yeah, it's just all around really great. I really like the main supporting cast as well, which kind of make up just Zen's guards, right hand people. Obi especially is kind of one that steals the spotlight, but Kiki and, oh god, I can never remember his name. This guy. These two and Obi are great. In this particular volume we have the wrap up to I guess the pirates kidnapping arc. And we learn more about the mountain lions, or whatever their group is called, which have a pretty interesting relation to Shiroyuki herself, which obviously brings this whole new arc and these characters into a different light. Yeah, I love it. This is a longer series. It's ongoing at 22 volumes, so it is we're kind of solidly in there. We've gotten about a third of it so far, but it is one of those longer running shoujo. Luckily, I do think it does have a lot more plot and momentum than some of the other longer shoujo that we tend to see. It's sort of in a similar vein to Yona, less full of action. It does still have action, it does still have fighting and kind of skirmishes and plot compared, but it's not as, there's not as much like political intrigue and like actual war and stuff going on comparatively to Yona. But those two, Snow White with the red hair and Yona of the Dawn, their length is kind of warranted with the type of story they're telling. It doesn't feel like repetitive comparatively to stuff like I'd probably say like Kimi Toroke, which is a wonderful series, but it is 30 volumes and it does not need to be 30 volumes. So yeah, you know, there's some great stuff in the series. If you're wanting a fantasy like story, if you're enjoying Yona, and you don't mind a series that's maybe a little bit more focused on the herbalist and kind of fun, slice of lifey, less politically and war oriented stuff, but still with romance, and actually like probably a fuller romance than Yona of the Dawn, then check out Snow White with the red hair, because it's really good, and I'm really happy that it did get licensed after so long. Next is my favorite series, the most recent volume of my favorite series, and I loved it, and it made me cry. And that is Natsume's Book of Friends, volume 24 by Yuki Midorikawa. Oh my goodness, you guys. So yeah, as always, yokai stories. Yes, give me that. I love it. This one is definitely a series focused on relationships that Natsume have with the yokai in his life, but also the people in his life, his friends, his family, his adoptive family, and or his found family, and his actual blood relation family. Talking about episodic, this series is one that, for the most part, is kind of each chapter self-contained as a story of Natsume or one of his friends, but generally him, running into various yokai who want something from him. Either they want his help, or they want their name back, or he sees the situation and wants to help them, and thus growing closer to the people around him. And I cry every time. Like, I sound like one of those bad emo memes, but I legitimately, Natsume's Book of Friends is so sweet, so lovely, so bittersweet. It's melancholy, but very hopeful, very bright and understanding and compassionate. I think that's the biggest thing for me, at least, is that there's a lot of compassion for Natsume in the series, and he's such a compassionate character, despite the bad things that have happened in his past and that have been done to him. He's ultimately a really good person and wants to do the best for people and help people in the capacity that he can. And it's so good. I think I've said this before, but like, if you don't know that I'm a huge Natsume's Book of Friends fan, welcome to the channel. Hope you're enjoying. Congratulations on making it this far. But I make it no secret that this is one of my all-time favorite series ever. I really hope we see a relicense of the anime, because it is marvelous and deserves to be watched by everyone. It's also a series that, despite its length, it is a little bit longer at 24 volumes, and it is ongoing. It's one that I could see continuing on for however long it wants to be, because the style and the strength of the chapters. Really, there isn't any chapter that sticks out as boring or not as good as the rest, or like out of place with the overall atmosphere, the overall mood. It's just brilliant, and it makes me blubber like a little baby with every chapter. Like, it's not even like specific chapters, it is so many of the chapters. Sometimes you grin and you sniffle and you're just so happy for the characters, and other times you just bawl your eyes out, but your heart is still warm, because ultimately it's, as I said, a very hopeful series. Guys, Natsume's Book of Friends is amazing, and everyone needs to buy it. I know nobody is gonna buy it, but I feel like slowly more people are buying it. I don't know, not recently, but I do know at least it's not just me and like 3 other people who are purchasing this. I gotta hand it to Viz. I don't know who's making these purchases, but thank you for continuing with such a wonderful series. I know it's definitely probably not like a huge hit for you guys, but I keep giving it to me. I'll keep buying it, and I'll keep trying to encourage everyone else to buy it too. And finally, for standard Viz stuff, we have another series that I completed this month. I'd already read the entire series through my library. These were just the last volumes that I needed for my own personal collection, because I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to buy it, because I really, really liked it. And that is Dawn of the Arcana volumes 11 and 13. I did already own volume 12, but this is a fantasy, kind of, again, sort of in the style of Snow White with the Red Hair, or even Yona, by Ray Toma. And this is the story of a princess who gets married off to a neighboring castle, or neighboring kingdom, I should say, to her husband Caesar there, and she is accompanied by her best friend and aide, Loki, who is what is known as a demi-human. So he has these animal-like ears and strength and all sorts of things. And there's a large division between the demi-humans and humanity, because demi-humans are seen as lesser. They're sort of the slave class within this society, and having been an outcast her entire life, our main character, she is trying to abolish the slavery of this, and give freedom to these demi-humans. But then there's also an issue of them segregating society and like having their own settlements and not living amongst humans. And there's kind of two parties to this, and it ends up being a really interesting way in how they do that. But then there's also reasons as to why certain characters push for certain things. I think it's done really well. I really liked it. Art is lovely, but not like, it's just pretty typical shoujo art. I found that the, I guess, low fantasy elements worked very well for the series. I found all the characters very likable. The ending hits hard. And yeah, I feel like if you are enjoying some of the newer shoujo stuff that I've mentioned, again, Snow White, Red Hair, Yen of the Dawn, then check this one out, because I think it flew under a lot of people's radars when it first was released, which is a shame, because it's shorter at 13 volumes, but it has a very complete story within that series, and within the entirety of the length of it. It's done really well. In some aspects, it kind of reminds me of, like, maybe even Heroic Legend of Aslan, like less wars and less things, but I don't know, it does certain things correctly that I've seen recently in fantasy series, most notably like the slavery element. It reminds me of 12 Kingdoms in that regard as well, that aren't done very well nowadays, because for some reason in light novels especially, slavery is a-okay and super cool and everyone should have a slave. Let's not do that, for one. For two, let's try and boost characters that are like, let's get rid of slavery, right? Let's get rid of the enslaving other people for our own benefit. Anyway, personal opinion there. Shouldn't be a controversial one, but that's just me. But yeah, it's very, very good, and if you missed out on it, give it a try. Give it, like, I'd probably say read the first 2 or so volumes. It takes a little while to, I think, find itself, and I'm not sure exactly the initial direction, but it grows a lot, and the characters grow and change a lot over the course of the series too. So yeah, it's really good. Next, we have a couple BL titles. The first one being the second volume of a series that I've been meaning to buy forever, but was really expensive because it's a yen press title, so it's like double the price that stuff normally is. And I found it was on Amazon for less than half price, so I finally jumped on it. And that is Monster and the Beast Volume 2 by Renji. This is the story of an older man and his demonic, monstrous companion. This old man, he looks very dapper, he looks very, like, proper or whatever. He's a big slut. And then our monstrous beast, Kavo, he looks like very scary and menacing, but he's just a little sweetheart baby who's like love at first sight, and so now he's trying to figure out their relationship, and they're traveling together, and he doesn't really know anything about this human, aside from this short time that he's spent with him. But oh, it's really good. This is 3 volumes currently in Japan. It's one, I actually follow the mangaka on Twitter. They always post cute art of their characters. Yeah, holy crap though, this is definitely like one of those titles that's like, yeah, monster fuckers, unite, you're getting your wish fulfillment shit. And this is like so far it's a very chaste, sweet little series. Like there's nothing explicit about it as of yet. But it's really good. It's kind of interesting. It's a fun dynamic to read in BL for one. Obviously, like, a demonic creature and human isn't wholly unusual, even for BL, but the fact that our main human character is like an older guy, mysterious, and is also kind of the big slut is you know, refreshing, maybe. Yeah, I really like this series. It's fun, and it's quite pure for what it is, considering. And yeah, solid little title. I'm looking forward to volume 3 because, oh my gosh, cliffhanger in volume 2. And I'm gonna be upset until volume 3 comes out. I don't know if volume 3 has come out. It might have. I'm just really behind on the series. But dang. Yeah. I know all you people out there, don't try and pretend like there's not people who are like, damn, yes, let me sleep with some demonic monster creature. This one's for you guys. Raise your glasses. This one's for you. Enjoy yourself. Next, and finally for the manga, we have the most recent volume of Given by Natsuki Kizu, the volume 2. This manga made me cry. I already know part of the story. I've watched the anime adaptation and love it. The manga is also brilliant. This is one of the titles I talked about with my good friend Ray from Whimsical Pictures when we did our LGBT manga podcast for this month, obviously for Pride. This is I love it so much. There's a particular panel in this that just made me so soft in the heart for these children. I loved it. There's so much to it's such a beautiful series. If you're not familiar, and this volume is kind of the climax of the show. There's a little bit after this that this panel. There's a little bit after this moment that happens in the show, like 1 or 2 episodes, but really this is kind of the climax of the anime. We are getting a movie at some point, which is exciting. So this follows 2 teenage boys, one who is a very avid musician. He plays guitar. He runs into this quiet boy from one of the other classes who is sleeping in his favorite spot at school with a guitar, with a very fancy guitar. And he notices that the guitar, I think that the strings are broken, he can't play it. And he's like, oh, why don't you fix your guitar, dude? And he's like, you can fix this? And he's like, yeah, of course, I'll do it for you. That's sure, here you go. And then then this other kid is like, please teach me how to play guitar. And so he does, kind of reluctantly. Ends up taking him to go see his band and introduce him to his bandmates, and then ends up joining the band. And because he's really good at singing, beautiful voice, and their relationship blossoms from there. Meanwhile, the other band members have their own messy relationship drama. They're both, well, one of them is in love with the other is kind of hung up on his kind of ex, on and off again boyfriend friend who he's been in love with for years and years and years. Yeah, so I mean, they're, considering this is the second volume, the emotional climax in this series and in this particular volume is so effective. It's so heart-wrenching. And if you've seen the anime, I think obviously because this is a music-based series, it has a lot of music in it, that's just kind of emphasized even more, because obviously you get to hear the song and the music and the lyrics and all sorts of things like that. But dang, guys, dang. I really like the fact that these two characters, our two main characters, kind of come from very different, they're coming from very different places. We have one character who's kind of falling in love for the very first time ever and is trying to figure out his feelings, but then the other character is coming from a relationship that ended very traumatically, very badly for him, and now trying to restart his life and forgive himself for and move on and learn to be happy again. And I'm just gonna cry over it again. Anyway, Given is wonderful. I say, even if you're not like a BL fan, the anime is worth watching. Like, I think it legitimately is worth watching. There's nothing explicit about it or anything like that. And if you enjoy that, maybe pick up the manga, because it's a BL, but it doesn't have any of the really toxic, harmful tropes that a lot of BL has. It has some drama, but it's not like anything. Oh, we talked about this in the podcast, but it doesn't have anything like super overtly like tropey drama that doesn't happen in real life. It's more like, oh yeah, I'm kind of still hung up on my old boyfriend, and I don't know how to move on from that, and I'm still like, my feelings are still there, but then I don't know how they, that sort of thing. But dang, guys, it's legitimately, and this, I said it before, in the more recent years we've gotten more and more good BL anime adaptations. I don't watch every BL anime that's ever made, because some of them I'm just not interested in. But more and more recently we have been getting really good ones from really wonderful studios that actually look good, sound good, have a very talented production cast behind it. And Dokusei, in my opinion, was kind of the first instance of that. Given is just one of the most recent ones, and it's really stand out above and beyond even the rest within the demographic and the genre. Yeah, give Given a read, especially if you're a BL fan and you aren't, you're wanting something new. It's one of the best that is coming out right now, in my opinion. And finally, for this month's pickups, I have light novels from the same series, and I've read them both online through subscription service. But this is Ascendance of a Bookworm, I'll Do Anything to Become a Librarian, Part 2. So the second arc, which is the Apprentice Maiden, and this is volume 1 and volume 2 of that. These are written by Miya Kazuki with illustrations by Yoshina. This is a isekai story about a young Japanese woman who dies after being buried under a mountain of books, who's a huge avid bookworm, in her original life. She loved reading. That's all she ever did. That's all she ever cared about. But she's reincarnated into the body of a very sickly young girl within this kind of low fantasy new world where there's books don't really even exist. They're at a level where print media is still like all handwritten. Books are very much a luxury of the rich, and she is not from a rich family. She is from kind of upper poorest of the poor. She's not destitute, and her father's a city guard, so he has a relatively good job, but literacy is not, that is non-existent. Most of the people around her can't read, can't write, can't do math, anything like that. So she is trying to reestablish the publication industry within this new world, to many issues, because obviously she has all of these modern ideals and ideas, and that's very much at odds with current technology. And so she and her best friend, who is this character here, Lutz, decide to create their own books. They create plant paper, they're creating ink, they're creating whatever they can to be able to make print media and mechanized publication. And there's many forces working against her, trying to not get her to not do that. I recently finished the 4th book of this arc, which is the final one of this arc, so I'm about to start the 3rd arc, which is different, and oh man, this series is really, really good. Like, I'm very tired of a lot of the current isekai trends, mainly because they are otaku wish fulfillment versus, I guess, female wish fulfillment, which is what this, and I think a lot of older isekai, like 12 Kingdoms, etc., are. Escaflowne is another one, where it just has a different feel. I like Mine, or Main, whatever you want to call her, a lot. I think she starts off very childish and very frustrated, but I think that's due in part, it's very understandable as to why. And she grows a huge amount in a very short period of time throughout the course of the series. This is technically volumes 4 and 5 of this series, but as I said, it's 1 and 2 of part 2. I think there's 8 parts in all, and each part subsequently gets longer. I think, don't quote me on that, but it is a long series. Like, it's a long series. It's currently being published online through J-Novel's subscription service, and then they are also putting out these hardcover releases. Really, really great. Probably, in my opinion, like, I'm not following a huge amount of light novels right now, but if you're wanting a isekai that's different from a lot of the, like, ReZero and Shield Hero and all these other more typical isekai stuff, then there's no slavery. There's no pro-slavery narrative. And Mine is like a legitimately good person. She's done selfish things or things that for her own benefit, but it's always stuff that ultimately will also help society at large as well. Then check this one out, because it's really good, and I think it's fun. It's quite funny, but it also gets really dark. This particular arc it does not shy away from a lot of issues that come with organized religion, that come with the power structures within religion, that are very evocative of true life problems within recognizable religious institutions in the real world. It's really good, but be prepared to be like, oh my god, oh my god, this is not the fun fantasy time I thought it was gonna be. Yeah, it's very good though. And I think it's honestly like a pretty decent starting point into isekai and even light novels in general. If you enjoyed the anime, because the second season just finished, which I haven't watched, but I did watch the first season. If you enjoyed the anime, then check it out. Also, check out the my next life. I haven't bought it in print yet, but I've also been reading that, and I know that the first season of that anime got a lot of positive buzz, and a lot of people just finished that. Also buy those books. My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom, aka Arcana. That just started being released in English from J-Novel as well, in print. So jump on that. That one's much more of a comedy than this one and pokes more fun at otome tropes. But yeah, both of them are good. I don't have Arcana, but I do have this one, and I encourage you to buy it. So that's what I got for June. A lot more than I expected, but it actually turned out pretty okay because I ended up finishing 2 series. We had 1, 2, 3, I guess technically 4 debuts. Yeah, I actually finished 3 series, or got the complete series of 2 series. Yeah, solid month. Good turnout, guys. Good job. And as I said, I've read all of these because I have had a lot of time on my hands being stuck at home doing nothing. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on any of these titles, whether you bought them, if you love them, hate them. I want to know. If you've heard of some of these titles or just discovered them now, let me. I like to see what people take away from these videos, because I know they're super long. And I think at a certain point you just kind of stop listening. You just kind of have it as background noise, like just phase out and like, yeah, okay, whatever, that's fine. So I'd be interested in seeing how much like people actually retain from me yammering on for several hours. But yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, my description will always have the links to my Twitter as well as Book Depository. A lot of these came from Book Depository as per usual. Don't feel obligated to use it, but if you are like me, do enjoy free worldwide shipping, then that's honestly probably the best place to get your manga, and even general novels as well. It's a pretty easy option. Let me know what you're picking up this month, next month, stuff you're looking forward to, whether some of your favorite series just started, or whether you completed any series as well, or if you've been catching up on your backlog like everyone should have done whilst we were all stuck at home for 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm not sure as to how much manga I'll be getting next month. I'll have some, but probably not to this level. I said that last month, but I can never tell. I can never pick it. I'm sorry. I'm just really bad at this. But yeah, as always, I am G from Simply G. Thank you guys so much for watching. Catch you in the next video. Bye till then.